For students, by students. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Now we will finally talk about alternative.
Yeah, we got a little sidetracked in the first part,
Artist
but
examples,
I mean, y'all
everything.
enjoyed it. Y'all like hearing us talk. I don't think he's the GOAT because he has a lot of songs.
Whoa.
I'm gonna say this. No, hear me out.
Here we go.
Here we go.
You would never
Fight night.
ruin it for me.
Fight night. Let's
let's
stay on track,
define
y'all.
what alternative is. Let's
Yes.
define it.
Yes.
My definition of alternative nowadays is literally anything opposite of pop music. Because anything could be alternative as long as it's not mainstream pop. Yeah. What do you guys think? What do you, Jalen, Jay?
Jay, you can go. You can
Okay,
share what you-
y'all know from last week, if y'all was listening, this is my favorite episode. Like, this is so far, like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Just had to get that out there. But for me, I feel like kind of similar to Mary, alternative for me is just any genre, because it could be alternative pop, because I listen to some artists who are alternative pop, but they are not your average genre mainstream platform, if that makes any sense. So like you have a hip hop artist, but they don't fit the hip hop norm.
Yeah.
I consider them alternative hip hop, or like, you know, so on and so on. So like that's how I classify alternative, where you have that genre, but you do not fit the cookie cutter cut of that genre.
It's more like people who are more radical thinking or more creative, more experimental.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything that's not commercial or
Pretty much.
like probably something that's way ahead of their time or sound that's way ahead of their time.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think, Jalen?
That's you basically just explain what I think alternative is. It's sort of like just sounds that are experimental that you wouldn't normally hear. Like like a lot of psychedelic stuff is alternative because that's just more of an experimental.
Which is kind of like a subgenre of alternative. Like it was like that's also one topic that I want to talk about. Alternative has so many subgenres that are in it.
Yes.
That's like it's crazy to me how alternative is so broad. Like you can't really, if you label an artist alternative, then alternative what?
Right.
It's just so broad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you label an artist alternative, there's so many other alternatives artists and they don't sound alike.
Exactly.
So it's like.
And like you brought up a great point, because our guest Mel was actually kind of like upset about this earlier.
I was.
So on our notes,
Actually, I still am.
on our notes, I put that in my opinion, Rico Nasty is an alternative artist.
Alt rock.
Yeah, I think
so too.
I give her
Borderline.
very much alternative vibes.
Well, why do you think
Borderline.
she's not?
Yeah.
She's clearly like she does Little Pump but female version. Like that's literally what she does. She makes music about, like, I would say, no offense if you're a Rico Nasty fan, but her music is dumb. Like there's no purpose, there's no
hold on,
feeling, there's no heart in her music.
You could've
She's
just-
a
First
Little
off,
Pump.
That's a hot take.
First off,
Little
Lil
Pump.
Nas X is dumb.
Welcome
back, everybody.
We're back.
Yes.
So
That
if
was
you
a
liked us
very
arguing,
heated
Yeah.
conversation.
That
about
was
to
a little
argue
crazy,
some more.
y'all.
Yeah.
because
I mean, let's try not to do that. I really want to talk about alternative, like get more in depth. I'm sorry, Jalen, but
what I was saying, I'm saying
like
that
the
because
gloves are off. I don't
so,
understand.
for
Because
this-
technically,
yeah.
Go ahead.
for this talking segment, we were going to talk about how do we feel about there being so many subgenres within alternative.
Yeah, so technically we are going to be
Debate.
debating. Yeah.
It's a debate.
Yeah. So, like, who wants to go first? You know, hot seat. Who wants the hot seat first?
Well, hold on. What subgenres do you want to highlight? Because there's so many.
I feel like because Mel brought up a good point of her point of view on what alternative music is for her, we individually say the subgenres we would like to highlight in this point of view, because technically we all wouldn't have the same viewpoints on it. So, yeah.
Let's see. Well, for me, I probably want to go with indie.
Ooh,
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, indie is technically a subgenre of alternative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure on the history of that, but I think indie is more of like isn't it more of like a pop, like an alt pop sort of? In its own way?
Sort of, yeah.
And then you kinda
Like
have
indie is
hyperpop,
just like,
too.
it's definitely not mainstream pop, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not commercial. I would say
Well,
it's
I would
more.
say it's moving into commercial now because like you got groups like my favorite group Glass Animals, and they're defined as like an indie rock group, and they have Heat Wave, they have Deja Vu, they have Tangerine, they have all these songs, and like you hear it now, B98.5 or like Star 94, all these radio stations like catching on to it. So I don't feel like it's mainstream. Well, I mean, if you're on public radio, I guess you are mainstream. Or you could say it's moving more toward the mainstream. Like, you can walk around campus, like, you hear it outside now, they're at an event. You will hear them play Heat Waves or something like that. Yeah. So I feel like it's moving towards that, being like, okay. And, like, everybody knows they got an indie rock song on their playlist. Don't lie, y'all. Y'all know you do.
That's the thing, though. It's so ironic how alternative is supposed to be, like, not mainstream, but it's more mainstream than ever.
Right.
Honestly. Because streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, everybody is listening to alternative music now because it's so accessible, and now it's more popular than ever. Honestly,
also TikTok, you guys gotta hand it to them. Like I feel like TikTok really gave artists a voice because now people can do dance challenges and stuff to your videos, or just make a funny, goofy video under your song, and people will be like, "Ooh, what's that song? I'm gonna go look it up." Because
that's how majority of my playlists are created.
felt that
very much so.
Mel goes into a very interesting point, which is the idea that because music is so open now, the idea of creating even more subgenres now is a bigger possibility than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
So like in the next decade, we're probably going to see more artistic expressions being expanded just because our box is no longer our box anymore. Like the radio stations we listen to is way wider. The social media platforms introduces us to music that we wouldn't normally be introduced to. Like alternative, I mean, the whole point of alternative was to go against the grain. So it's like, now that it's popular to go against the grain, is it really alternative anymore? But I think it can still be, because music is ever evolving, ever changing. Like if you go to every decade period, the music and the sound, I mean, there's a reason why there's a 90s playlist, an 80s playlist, a 70s playlist. Like,
because that sound is always evolving.
Exactly.
Like, no matter what. Like, they had the same genres, but that sound was just always evolving every era.
Yeah.
But alternative music, when it first was created, I think it was like formed around the 60s or 70s, but it wasn't popular until the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Like Nirvana, what's it called? Nirvana, Weezer, The Cure, they made it popular.
Oh yeah, Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Like those are the songs that played in the radio in the 90s, and that's how alternative got established, right? And then after it was established, all these subgenres got popped off, and I'm just like, I don't know if we can label all these artists alternative anymore. But, I mean, we still do, but I kind of wish we don't, you know? Like
I felt that.
So what would be you think they should just go into whatever category they fit in? So, like, if it's alt X category, they fit into X category. It's not really alt anymore?
Because, I mean, alternative is so broad now. It's evolved into something that we can't really pinpoint.
Instead of alternative, I was thinking maybe like underground artists, because if you're underground, then you aren't really like mainstream. So I feel like underground artists is becoming the new alternative artist.
It can still be.
I mean, that is considered the alternative. Like that's how it was created.
I'm saying like alternative artists now are like more in the mainstream. So I'm like, if you're still underground, then you're like still, you know.
That's like true alternative.
Yeah, true alternative.
There we go. Yeah.
What did you want to say, Jay?
No, I was just gonna say that I feel like for me, I would personally like to keep the genre alternative there, even though it's evolving, because like because there's so many different, like how you made a very great point. In alternative music, we can't even pinpoint the genre.
Yeah.
That right there is alternative in itself. Like the fact that we're even having this conversation puts it against the grain.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
I get it. So like the
so
beauty of this hard to define genre is the fact that it's so hard to define.
Yes, because like if we're talking about hip hop, it's not that we're probably not gonna have no type of questions about it. Just going boom, 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 boom. We're talking about jazz. It's gonna be boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But with alternative music, we're sitting here having this conversation and having this dialogue of like we can't even get on the same idea. Mel doesn't even think that Rico Nasty is an alternative artist. I think that she is. That right there is alternative. The fact that we're even debating that, because we're like, how do you define this sound?
Facts.
Yes.
So like in that sense, I feel like it's always going to be alternative because nobody knows how to pin that sound down. And then even if we listen to alternative music in the same genre, they don't always sound the same. Like Arctic Monkeys and Florence and the Machine are in the same category of it as indie, but they do not sound anything the same.
I see.
So like that in itself is like right there alternative.
So I have a question, and maybe this